Hello to you all at St. Paul. I'd like to take this opportunity in this video to share with you some good news. The good news is we are going to be headed back to church, finally. In-person worship services will begin on Sunday, June 14th and Monday, June 15th. There are 3 services total, 2 of which are on Sunday and the other is on Monday. Now this is our normal worship schedule at St. Paul for the summertime, so it's easy to remember, hopefully. The 2 worship services on Sunday will be at 8:30 a.m. and 11 o'clock a.m., and the worship service on Monday night will be at 7 p.m. In addition to these in-person services, worship will continue to be live streamed at both of the Sunday services, actually. They'll be continued to be live streamed, and drive-up communion will still be made available to those who prefer to stay at home at this time. Bible studies and Sunday school videos will still be online only for now. So, I'd like to take a second to please encourage you. Put your mind at rest, your conscience at ease. If you do not feel quite ready to return to in-person worship yet, if you don't feel comfortable, please stay at home. There is absolutely no guilt in being safe. We all understand, that there are different factors and reasons why people are made to feel more or less comfortable going out in public right now. So, I would encourage you, though, to please call the church office or email me for any pastoral care needs that you might have. I'm here for you. So, we will, as time goes on, be making some adjustments as needed, especially once we get a couple of these in-person worship services under our belt. If changes need to be made, we'll make adjustments as they are needed to keep worship both a joyful thing and a healthy time for everyone. We've been blessed here in the state of Michigan, even though we've had a rather lengthy stay-at-home order. We have been blessed in the state of Michigan with respect to the law regarding our freedom to gather for worship. So while that means that we are free, completely free, to gather and worship with respect to the law, we do still remain bound to each other in Christian love. So it is always best and wisest here, and it is my encouragement to you to put the other person and his or her needs first before your own. This is a Christ-like thing to do. Please be patient with one another during this time. We will all be doing our best to abide by these expectations so that we can anticipate each other when we come together for worship. And just remember, these are uncharted waters for us all. So, I know, though, with God to lead and to guide us through it, we'll make our way through this season of change, and I pray that in time we will be a stronger congregation for it. Feel free to contact the church office or myself with any questions that you might have regarding these adjustments that are being made. So, in a bit more detail, here's what you can expect when you come to church on Sunday. Please wear a face mask or a similar face and nose covering like a scarf or a bandana while you're in the church building. Also, maintain social distance, at least 6 feet from others when you're nearby. Please no handshakes or hugs yet at this time. Each worship service that will be offered will be identical to the rest, so consider worshiping on a different time than maybe you're used to. There will also be a Monday night service at 7 o'clock, remember. So, for example, if you're used to worshiping on Sunday, perhaps consider for a time worshiping on Monday night. This will allow for a little bit more even distribution of worshipers at each of the services, and will give us the opportunity to spread out a bit more than we would otherwise be possible. When you come to the sanctuary, please enter only by the 2 main sanctuary doors. If you prefer, you can also be dropped off at these same doors when you come. This will be just to make sure that we can keep the flow of traffic moving well when people come, and to avoid crossover or unnecessary contamination of highly touched objects. Consider arriving at the church a little bit earlier too, in order to give the ushers time to seat everybody in a timely fashion. When you come in, you'll notice to your left at the Welcome Center that your bulletin will be there. It's yours to keep. It contains the entire worship service, liturgy, prayers, readings, and hymns. So be sure to pick one of those up. If you've brought your offering with you, you can place it in the designated basket A little bit further in the narthex toward the sanctuary doors, it'll be clearly marked so you can place your offerings in there. You may also continue using electronic giving if that's what you've been used to. Now, when it comes to seating, this is the part that will most likely feel and look the most different for us while we worship at this time. So please wait to be ushered to your seat. Appropriately distanced spaces have been marked out ahead of time in the sanctuary. Households, you all can sit together, but with appropriate distance to others around you. Once the sanctuary is filled to capacity, additional seating will be available in the fellowship hall. You'll be able to hear and watch the worship service there in the fellowship hall on the TV there. We all like to sit in our familiar places at church, I know, but at this time, we'll have to remain a little bit flexible and understand that we'll all be experiencing worship in a new way, and you might not get to sit in your normal spot right off. Some of you might be wondering, well, what's the point of sitting perhaps in the fellowship hall to watch church on a TV? I've been doing that. Well, that's true. We have gotten used to watching and worshiping in our own living rooms, but consider that this is a positive step forward. It's a coming together. It's a coming closer together than we ever have been, which is still exciting news. So, though we may have to take turns sitting in the fellowship hall, it is still a step in the positive, and we'll get to see each other's friendly faces and greet each other in the normal way. When it comes to music in the worship service, we will still be singing, and we will still make a joyful noise to the Lord. However, please make all of your joyful noises through a face mask. The organ, it'll be played at a slightly lower volume than normal. This is to encourage us all, myself included, to sing with a little less gusto than maybe we would. Singing, when you think about it, projects more breath and moisture from your mouth that we want to keep as much contained as possible. So please do sing with a bit more restraint, and at the proper time too. It might be a good contemplative exercise if we take into consideration the text of the hymns in a new way. Maybe we read through and watch and read those hymn texts go by in a new way. You never know, sometimes you get something new out of it when you're paying attention in a different way. Also, the praise band, they're going to be joining worship at a later date. They're eager to get back, but for the time being, they've decided that it's wisest to wait before coming back to worship. Now, when it comes to the communion portion of the liturgy, this also has a lot of question marks, I'm sure, for you all, but I'd like to explain what you can expect during communion. I, along with a couple of other communion assistants, will have just washed our hands thoroughly and be wearing masks during the distribution. Ushers then again will dismiss each family or individual to come forward and receive Holy Communion. So, pay attention at this time, especially to the arrows and the X's marked throughout the building. If you're sitting in the fellowship hall, there'll be arrows in the hallways to direct the flow of foot traffic into the sanctuary. Then, in the sanctuary, down the center aisle, there'll be tape-marked X's at which you can stand as the line progresses. This is to keep a safe distance from those around you in front and behind. And as you wait to receive the Lord's Supper, just find your X. Everyone in attendance will be able to receive communion in the sanctuary. So, take your time. We'll all be taking ours. And with a bit of anticipation for the other person, this should go very well. When you've come forward to receive communion, simply remove your mask at that time when you've arrived to the step at the altar, and put out your hand flat. I'll put the wafer into your palm, and then you yourself can take the individual cup from the tray. The individual cups in the trays will be spaced far enough apart that you won't have to worry about anybody else touching the next cup to yours. So you do take your own cup from the tray. When you've finished communing, you can place your empty cup in the basket that's located in the front side of the sanctuary, and then replace your mask as you return to your seat. If your seat is located in the fellowship hall, please return from communion by walking up the side aisle of the sanctuary out again into the hallway, just follow those arrows located on the floor to direct you back to the fellowship hall. Ushers will then, at the end of the service, dismiss small groups of worshipers beginning from the back of the sanctuary and the fellowship hall. You can exit by the closest door to you, but please wait. Take the time maybe to pray after the service or to speak quietly, mindfully of the others around you, to the person sitting next to you perhaps. You will get to leave, but we just don't want to free for all, everybody trying to squeeze out of one narrow doorway at the same time. So that's why we'll have ushers to excuse small group by small group. Then make your way out to the parking lot and to the churchyard and enjoy each other's company. This will be an exciting part of worship too, is the fellowship. So please do continue to observe social distancing outside even, but take advantage of our summer weather. It's finally here and we can enjoy it. So please enjoy each other's company and conversations outside of the church building. This will also give the cleaning crew a chance to sanitize and wipe down all of those high-touch items between the services in preparation for the late service. And then again on Monday evening, the same sanitizing practices will be carried out to make sure that the worship space is clean and ready for the next group. A little bit more about live streaming and drive-up communion. So the 8:30 and the 11 o'clock service will both be live streamed. However, important to note that drive-up communion will only be offered between the two morning services. So from 9:40 a.m. until 10:40 a.m., those still worshiping from home can drive to the church as you have in the past and receive communion from your car. We will meet you this time at the east doors on the side of the church. That location has changed. So on the side of the church, the doors closest to the food pantry, that's where drive-up communion will be. Since everybody will be using those main doors for the in-person worship, it's best and easiest to relocate drive-up communion to those side doors on the east side of the church. So, as I said, the sanitizing of the worship space will happen between services and after the last service in preparation for Monday night as well. Another note about worship, regarding prayer requests, we'll still be able to do that. I know that's been handled a couple of different ways in the past, but for now, I think it will be simplest and easiest to please submit your prayer requests by calling or emailing the church office during business hours only, Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. You've got the church's phone number, 810-231-1033, or you can email the secretaries at St. Paul at stpaulhamburg.com, or you can email my pastor email, which is pastor@stpaulhamburg.com, anytime up to 8 o'clock a.m. on Sunday morning. I'll be sure to check that last minute before worship begins, and that way we've got the most up-to-date prayer requests for that worship service. I think that concludes all of the details. I know that was a lot to take in, but I'd like to leave you now with a couple of thoughts from the scriptures. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1 says, "For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven." And from Psalm 122 verse 1, "I was glad when they said to me, 'Let us go to the house of the Lord.'" These two verses have served as encouragement during stay at home. They have served as my prayers throughout, and they serve now uniquely as guideposts for us returning to worship. So there is a season for everything. Something that happens when the seasons change, even talking about nature, is that things come and go. Sometimes the change of seasons in life, and there are many kinds of changes of season, they can bring about great joy, anticipation, perhaps some fear of the unknown, but always change, and that's something to be mindful of. In these moments of change, we can be encouraged that God is still with us and that He is leading and guiding us through these changing seasons. There is a time for every matter under heaven, and we know who's in charge of that. So be encouraged that through this season of change, it's a positive season of change, a healthier season of change than we've experienced recently. And it causes great joy. We can be glad when we go back to the house of the Lord. Just as that psalm says, "I was glad when they said to me, 'Let us go to the house of the Lord.'" And with that, I will see you at church. May God richly bless you now and always.